this has all the makings of like a game-breaking season for Bijan Robinson and things hit. Bijan Robinson. I talked about him last year, and I didn't have the nicest things to say when he was being drafted in the first round. Round one, I think this is the worst pick, the absolute worst pick in round one. I don't see a world where he finishes as a top 3 running back. Top 5 running backs even going to be a stretch. First round, if you take Bijan Robinson, it's a reach. But now, this is a whole different season. He finished as RB10 last year. We know Arthur Smith was the major problem in this offense. And now we get a major offensive coordinator upgrade with Zach Robinson, the guy who made Kyron an all-pro, Kyron Williams an all-pro. Raheem Morris is the coach. He's come out this offseason and said, Bijan is our guy. Zach Robinson was just quoted as saying, we want to use this guy like CMC. You hear those words coming from the coaching staff about running this offense through Bijan Robinson, and you kind of look at previous usage. A lot of people were calling him a better prospect than Saquon Barkley when he came out. So to get that kind of running back in this system, I have Bijan Robinson as my number 1 player this season. He has the least amount of question marks, right? Like Bijan is young. He's got new offensive coordinator that fits his role on offense. They play indoors. You got a quarterback upgrade. There's a lot to love with Bijan. And then I look at the other picks. Tyreek Hill has a nasty fantasy playoff football schedule. CeeDee Lamb dealing with contract stuff. Is that going to go into the season? CMC, they're talking about reducing his workload so they can keep him healthy, getting Eli Mitchell a little bit more involved. A.J. Brown and Jamar Chase have wide receiver 2s that they have to deal with. Amon-Ra St. Brown, his entire team is loaded. You got Gibbs. They're hyping up Jameson Williams. We saw the importance of Sam Laporta last year. So he has kind of a cap on his ceiling. Jonathan Taylor has Anthony Richardson to deal with in the red zone. Saquon Barkley has A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith on the outside and may have tush pushes with Jalen Hurts. Justin Jefferson has either Sam Darnold or J.J. McCarthy throwing to him. Out of all the top picks, Bijan Robinson actually has the least amount of risk and the highest upside if everything hits. What's really your gripe with Joe Mixon when every year everybody says the same thing about him? He's inefficient, he's getting older, and he just continues to produce. Going right now is like the RB15, RB14, depending on the format and where you're looking at. Joe Mixon, who is now part of the Houston Texans, he was traded this offseason and finished as the running back 6 last year for the Cincinnati Bengals. He's been running back 13 or better in 5 of the last 6 seasons. Most of the time, he finishes as a top 10 running back. He had 1,000 yards rushing last year. Was involved in the passing game. So he's consistently been top 10. He gets moved to, in my opinion, a much better offense where the offensive line is getting better. What are we concerned about with Joe Mixon is the fact that he's getting old. If that was the case, you think the Houston Texans would have signed him to a 3-year deal? He's going to have a very nice season with this offense. Think about how the defenses have to respect the passing game now that they got Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, and Tank Dell. We saw how Devin Singletary was in this offense in the second half of the year. He's a top 10 back, and he's going outside of the top 10, outside of the top 12 running backs. You can get him as an RB2 in most of your drafts. I get it. You got concerns, man. You've drafted Saquon Barkley high every single year, and he gets hurt or he lets you down. This situation is perfect for him right now. We saw DeAndre Swift in this offense last year. He goes to now one of the worst offensive lines and offenses in all of football to now one of the best offensive lines and best offenses in all of football. And you think he won't be a top 3 running back? To be real, there's only one thing that's holding him back from being a lock, an absolute lock to be top 3 if he plays all 17 games. Only one thing. And that's Jalen Hurts. There's been a big change in this offense, hasn't there? Kellen Moore is now the offensive coordinator here. And quote from Jalen Hurts, 95% of this offense has changed. There's one play in particular that if it's gone from this offense or they decide they want to tweak it a little bit and maybe use Saquon Barkley in that role, his value skyrockets. And that's the tush push. Because now we go from a player who's probably going to score 6 to 8 touchdowns to probably more in the 13 to 15 touchdown range total. If the tush push is gone and Jalen Hurts is not rushing in 13 to 15 touchdowns a year, Saquon Barkley is going to be an absolute smash this year in fantasy football.